Today I will speak to Tomasz Horacek, head of IG Poland, and we are in their offices in Kraków. Hello Tomek, thanks for accepting our invitation.
Thanks for having me.
And my first question goes directly into recruitment, interviewing, and especially the subject of pushing or being pushed to the limits. It's a very often case. I would like to know what are your experiences and maybe also your opinions about if this is the right way to behave or treat candidates during the process.
Well, definitely I experience that during some of the interviews I attended, being pushed to the limit, maybe from a physical perspective. Senior interviews usually end up being international, and you are expected to travel abroad. Doing that from Krakow typically ends up waking up at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning, getting to the airport, and then attending a long series of meetings or an assessment center with a panel. I think that's some way of being pushed to the limit. Another way I experience also is maybe to participate in some psychological tests, which where you have very short time to answer them. And but I think there is always a workaround, because personally I'm not a big fan of pushing people to the limit during the interview, because then there is a risk of not really seeing the true candidate. As an example, I remember when I was invited to an interview abroad, but the journey was really, really long with multiple stopovers. We finally ended up agreeing kind of a place in the middle, and we've done the interview at Frankfurt Airport, where there was a direct flight connection from Krakow and another direct flight from the other end. So there are workarounds to get to also mitigate some of the impact. And as I said, personally, I'm not a fan of pushing people when I interview. You might ask challenging questions, but it's not about putting them into an uncomfortable position, like commenting on their answers negatively, or asking questions they can't know the answer. So I think it's a little bit a branding exercise for the company, because the senior you get, it's also about the image you want to send to the market in terms of what is the atmosphere at work, and how does your future boss kind of wants to work with you. And I think that being more in a safety net gives greater opportunity and success of really learning the personality of the candidate, and being able to make a better informed decision at the end of the interview.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. Now, a little bit related to the topic of pushing to the limits or touching the limits of recruitment processes is, for me, also the topic of diversity, which is now currently, for many years already, very actual. Because we know already very for sure that just from experience, more diverse teams perform better. Now the story is about how to achieve this diversity, and I think the recruitment process is one of the key points where you can either achieve or maybe avoid achieving diversity. So what are your experience about that, and maybe some best practices that you can share with others, how to make sure that the process of recruitment runs in that way that at the end we have good performing diverse teams?
I think it comes back to the true understanding of diversity, but also the inclusion part in the organization, rather than just seeing diversity as a metric and something you need to hit certain targets to please somebody. So locally, I think it's showing the benefits of working in diverse teams is important. And my personal story is that I really learned a lot and developed in those most diverse environments where I was part of a team which was truly international. I had managers from 6 different continents, 5 different religions, and that type of you need to really show those examples where how they are successful, and that's the way of educating the hiring managers to pay great attention to that. But on the flip side, we don't want to hire a candidate who's just meets the diversity criteria, but we want to hire the best candidate and the top talent in the market. So I think you also always need to balance that out to see what are the needs. And diversity also may mean different things in particular groups. It doesn't. We often limit diversity just to gender diversity, and there is a great variety of other diversities, which may even have a bigger impact on your team's performance.
Yeah. Do you think any special things have to be applied when thinking goes about internal recruitments? When diversity is a different topic?
Internal recruitment is an interesting one, because here you run a risk of not promoting somebody who is well known to the organization and might be a top performer, but he or she doesn't meet the criteria set by the diversity strategy. And I think that the importance here is not to avoid diversity discussions and try to move the needle, but it's more about the messaging to the candidates after the interview, why they were not selected or why they were selected. So because it can quickly become a negative experience, even for the person who was selected, that they were only selected because of certain diversity criteria, and then you might lose 2 very strong individuals from the organization.
Right, absolutely. The last question that I have for you is maybe more related to kind of advice we could give to people thinking about their future career development, and especially about advice about preparing well for an interview. It's a very important topic. People have different opinions about it. There are hundreds of books about this, of course. What are your personal views on these experiences, and also, I mean, both as a hiring manager and as a candidate? What are the points that you would here point to as the most important?
Preparation is very important, not only in interviews, but in all the business, even personal life. So I used to work as a project manager, program manager for a long period, and there's a saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So therefore, good preparation in advance of interviews is key. I think there are some basics and maybe some more advanced items candidates may follow. Obviously, you should familiarize with the company, with their business model, how they earn money, who's who, and also maybe the difference between the local and the global activities of the firm, depending on the role you apply for. On the other hand, it's also good to understand the company values and the purpose of an organization. First of all, to be be sure that you identify yourself with those values and you want to work for an organization which is close to your heart. On the other hand, it's more powerful to work for a purpose-led organization than somebody who just wants to make money. And in terms of preparation, I think it also depends on the stage of the interview process. So while it's good to know who you meet and look up their LinkedIn profile or maybe some newspaper articles they have done in the past in the kind of first round, I usually ask what the main business challenge is for the organization and how do they see the role of the opening. How can the person help the organization to master that challenge? And in the second or third round, you can then refer back to it and just to propose a solution. So I think that's a very powerful way of showing also your interest and motivation, but also practical skills you have and ideas, rather than just waiting for questions.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you would imagine the situation that this whole thing has already happened and you are the hiring manager and you have in front of you 3 candidates that are equally good, like they have been good prepared, they have done good interviews, but you still have to choose only one. What would be the final decisive point that you would take as this 0.5% that is deciding?
It often happens like that because we often see candidates who have very similar backgrounds or experience. There is an element of diversity, how they fit into the team, but also culturally how they fit into our organization, and this is also the way how I also ask during the interviews to really judge whether they would be a good fit to the organization and somebody who will stay longer and develop rather than being motivated by other things.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's very interesting remarks.
Thank you very much.